What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Tinted Visors podcast. Coming back at you with episode 19. Today, we're going to do our recaps at the beginning as usual. Then, we're going to move on to our award predictions, finish up that segment. And finally, we're going to look ahead to the trade deadline coming up on March 1st. Kind of look at some players today, see where we think they're going. Finally, we're going to wrap it up with some trivia. That being said, let's get it going.
I got thousand gunmen turning up, but they will gun you down.
But before we get going into that, we're going to do a card of the day. And for me, nothing special for you guys, but we do have a Kyle Turris Young Guns. Pretty old card, same rookie year as Stamkos. So same design, obviously. I got a couple cards of him in my collection now, a couple autos, some with Nashville, some with Arizona. But I'm a big fan of Kyle Turris. He's a BC boy. I was a big fan of his when he played in Ottawa, a couple of deep cup runs with him, and he was at the center of of a bunch of those. So it kind of sucked to see when he moved on to Nashville and his career sort of dwindled down from there. But, he's a great guy. I had the chance of meeting him in person, and he's a very humble guy, very, very cool experience, something I'll never forget. And, it's a great card in my collection. I really love the player, and I hope to keep that collection growing. His cards aren't worth that much, so it's not a very expensive PC to have, but it's great.
Yeah, Kyle Turris, kind of a forgotten name. Glad you got to meet him. Kenny didn't tell you is he had seen him at the gym for several days and took him a few days to work up the courage to go up and talk to him, but super cool you got to meet him, take a picture with him. But yeah, so my card of the day actually came in the mail recently. It is a Bo Horvat card. It's another edition. It's going to be the cup. It's a 4-color patch, and it's numbered to 8. So it is a second-year card. It isn't a rookie card. But yeah, saw this one on Instagram. Really liked it. Worked the price down a little bit to something that I liked. Bought it, and yeah, sweet card. There is a little bit of a problem. There's a thread coming out of the patch on the silver part, but 4-color patch, man. Hard to find. Super sweet card. Really happy with my newest Bo Horvat card.
That's awesome. I've never seen that, so my reaction there is pretty genuine. But yeah, 4-color patch is something you never see, and numbering under 10 is something extremely rare. So I'm really happy for you. That's an awesome pickup. Just moving into some recaps. A little outdated by now, but the principle is still pretty relevant in hockey, and it's the Ridley Gregg and Morgan Rielly situation. I'm going to touch on both sides. I don't agree with anything that really happened in the whole situation, but there's a lot of unwritten rules in the sport of hockey, and taking a slap shot into an empty net is, it's uncommon, so it's not something that everyone knows about, but I'm pretty sure everyone in the NHL knows that it's a no-no. It's something that you don't do in the league, and you're going to pay the price for it. So I think, Ridley Gregg, he's a young kid, he's a good kid. He has to know, whether it's Pee-wee, whether it's junior, whether it's AHL, NHL, that doesn't fly anywhere. And, he didn't deserve a headshot, but, he deserved some sort of a punishment, and he got a pretty harsh punishment from Morgan Rielly. But I mean, when it gets to the point where your teammates can't even defend you, I mean, the Claude Giroux interview, he couldn't even defend his own teammate in what Ridley Gregg did. So when it gets to that point, you kind of messed up, and I can assure you that Ridley Gregg's never going to do that again. But on the flip side, Morgan Rielly, I respect him for standing up for him and for his team. But, nothing ever warrants a cross-check to the back of the head. And, whether he was going for the shoulder and it rode up, or whether he was going straight for the head, nothing warrants that. I think, he should have grabbed him, maybe pinned him against the glass, or, maybe given him a chance to turn around and sort of answer for it. Because, you see a lot of those things and you expect the person to answer the bell. And he didn't even give him a chance to answer the bell. So I think Morgan, it was a slimy play by Ridley Gregg, and it was equally slimy for Morgan Rielly to do that, and it'll give him a little cheap shot, and I think he got what he deserved in the 5-game punishment. On top of that, Sheldon Keefe, to say that was appropriate, I think that's pretty shameful. To say that, the headshot was an appropriate action, I think, I don't think he should be a head coach in the NHL if he's going to make comments like that. I think it was pretty boneheaded. I'm hoping that he just chose his words poorly, because to promote that kind of thing in a league where concussions are, always a problem, and, the league goes to a bunch of lawsuits about CTE and all that kind of stuff. So to say that, the headshot was warranted is pretty, distasteful.
Yeah, pretty crazy situation that unfolded in the Battle of Ontario. Me, I'm kind of conflicted about it. The unwritten rule of hockey, you talk about it, but this could be the new school. People always complain about hockey players not showing emotion or, being marketable. And Ridley Gregg doing something like this, I found it pretty funny. If it happened to my team, maybe I'd be a little upset, but watching him rip a clapper into the Leafs empty net was, I thought it was pretty funny. And the reactions from the Leafs, the headshot, obviously definitely not warranted for, but there does need to be some kind of reaction. And, I think there were multiple different ways Riley could have gone about doing things. It resulted in the headshot, but in a rivalry, emotions running high on both sides. Ridley Gregg maybe looking back wouldn't do that again, and Morgan Riley obviously wouldn't go for a headshot looking back. So emotions were running high. I think it could have been handled differently, but it'll be super interesting to watch these guys meet up again. I think next year. I don't think they play this season. So, we'll see what happens next season. Maybe Ridley Gregg fights somebody, but I would expect another reaction from the Leafs moving forward.
Yeah, I didn't even think about the next matchup, but that should be a good one.
Yeah, just moving on to a lighter note here. Connor Bedard, back early. The league's future, comes back early from that broken jaw, is rocking the bubble, makes an immediate impact, has an assist in his first game, scores one goal and then another in his second game that got turned back because of offside. But yeah, overall, just a huge win for the league. Impacts the Blackhawks immensely. They can't tank as hard for that number one overall pick with him in the lineup. But yeah, overall, everybody wins seeing Bedard back on the ice, and it's really good to see him come back early.
Yeah, it's great to see. I don't know how they made it so quick in his recovery, but it's such a different team when he is in the lineup, and Chicago is benefiting from that. And with him back so early and getting points right away, the Calder it's all his now. We talked a couple weeks ago about him being up for grabs, maybe with him being out for so long, but he's back and he's doing really well. And he's like we said, he's gonna be a lock.
Tough for a guy like Brock Faber, who's having a really solid rookie year. And when Bedard was out, it looked like it was his for the taking if Bedard missed, an extended period of time. However, he's back so soon and, producing again right away. Props to Faber. It's been a really, really solid Calder campaign, but it looks like it's going to Bedard at the end of the day.
Yeah, just moving on, got some more injury news. And similarly to the Sergachev injury, Blake Wheeler falling back on his leg. And he's done for the season. Looks like it's going to be for the playoffs too. And at his age, kind of just wonder what he's going to do about his future. His contract's up. He only signed a 1-year deal with the Rangers, but that does take a pretty big hit to their depth. So we don't know if they're going to go out and pick someone up for the deadline now. I know there's guys like Frank Vatrano out there who might make a reunion with the Rangers, but look for them to make a splash at the deadline with a guy like Wheeler out. Obviously they were buyers before, but now they're going to need to replace him and make a big splash.
Yeah, at first glance it doesn't look like they're losing much. 21 points and only 9 goals. But that's really solid for a bottom six forward, and that's not what he's in there to do either. He's not there to produce, but also just provide like a veteran presence in that locker room. So who knows what the Rangers are kind of missing with him out of the lineup. But yeah, big blow for the Rangers. It'll be interesting to see if they decide to try to replace him at the deadline.
Last bit of news for you guys is Slavkovsky. First overall pick a couple years ago. A lot of people called him a bust 1 year in. You can't call anyone a bust after, just 1 year in the league. So he's doing really well now. He's on the top line, playing with very good players like Suzuki and Caulfield. He's got a couple point streaks. He's putting up, a lot of great games consistently. It's great to see, and he's only 19 years old. They're going to have him for a long time, and it's great to see him finally.
Yeah, like you said, he's still 19, still a teenager, which is crazy, super young, and he's producing like a number one overall pick, which is great to see. And I think we have to get away from this narrative of calling people bust super early. You look at a guy like Jack Hughes a few years back having, a rough and injury-riddled rookie campaign and being called a bust and all this stuff on social media. And then, he flips the script, he turns it around and becomes a superstar. And the same thing with Slavkovsky, gets called a bust way too early. You've got a bunch of fans hating, and he's turning it around, and he's really producing. Something you love to see. Really excited to watch him grow and develop as a player.
Just going over to our weekly segments, the award predictions. Wrapping it up this week, we have the Art Ross Trophy. We've gone through most of these subjective trophies. Now, got to go over to the objective ones, and it's just most points in the league. And right now, it's looking like a two-horse race, although you can't ever leave out McDavid. But for me, I got to back my boy, Nikita Kucherov. He's got a 5-point lead right now over Nathan McKinnon. And it doesn't look like he's showing any signs of slowing down. So I have to believe he's going to keep up that pace of, potentially 130 points, maybe even more than that. The only thing that would kind of knock him, in my opinion, is just the inconsistency of the Tampa Bay Lightning. There are games where they just get completely shut out, and that leads to Kucherov getting you know, maybe 1 point, but, closer to zero. And with, McKinnon's Colorado, that could open up the gate for him to surpass Kucherov and potentially take home this trophy.
Yeah, he is outscoring McKinnon despite McKinnon having a great year, and it seeming to be all the buzz this year. But yeah, Kucherov, you talk about the struggling Lightning. I think it's going to help him. I do think the Lightning make the playoffs. And, with Kucherov at the helm, I think for the whole year, all 82 games, they're going to have to be competing. There's going to be no taking the foot off the gas this year for the Lightning. So I think he'll be able to produce, and I think he's on pace for a really, really solid year en route to an Art Ross trophy. Talk about McDavid. He is a little bit behind. He has 81 points, so he's 13 behind the lead. But you can't ever count out McDavid, easily the best player in this league, and he could, very easily heat up on an Oilers team that is also fighting to make the playoffs. So we'll see how the race unfolds. It does look like a two-horse race, like you said. But do you have any dark horse picks, Kenny? Someone, you can see coming up from behind out of nowhere, seemingly, and taking this trophy home?
Yeah, like we said, it's two-horse race, maybe even three-horse with McDavid. Other than that, it's pretty hard to see anyone else coming away with it. Next man up on the leaderboard is David Pastrnak, and it wouldn't surprise me if he went on a tear, picked up 40, 50 points in the last 30 points or last 30 games of the season, and potentially steal away this trophy. But as much as I would like to see sort of a comeback by anyone in the fourth, fifth, or sixth position in the leaderboard, it's probably going to be one of those three. If not, just Kucherov straight up.
We talked about the players. We've done all the player awards. Let's look at the coaches. We have the Jack Adams Award. There are a few coaches in the running for it. Kenny, who's your number one pick to take it home?
I don't have number one pick, but I'll let you touch on him just because of a certain situation. But for me, Paul Maurice is making a very strong case. Second in the Atlantic right now with the Florida Panthers. And he's, with what he was given at the start of the season with, injured Ekblad and injured Montour, he has shown that, the Panthers are there to compete, and they were not just a one-hit wonder last season. He has really sort of gotten these guys out of their shells, guys like Gustav Forsling, Sam Reinhart, getting these guys to really emerge themselves as stars on the team. And that's credit to him. And, I think, you could throw in a guy like Laviolette or maybe even Rick Bowness, but I think with the roster that Paul Maurice had at the start of the season, I think that's more impressive than what Laviolette's done with the New York Rangers.
Coming up a cup final appearance where no one thought they would be there, the Panthers squad has bounced back and they're looking like they want to make a run again. I see them in the conference final again. It'll be really cool to see them in the playoffs again. I was rooting for him last year, but yeah, Paul Maurice has really done a good job with this Panther team. But my take to win it all, and I believe yours as well, it's got to be Rick Tocchet to the Vancouver Canucks. Coming in the middle of the season last year, trying to clean up this dumpster fire that wasn't really caused, but was left by Bruce Boudreau, being fired. And he came in and, last year kind of ruined Canucks fans' hopes of Connor Bedard. Turned the team around in a short amount of time, and we started winning, and we were climbing up the standings. And, we were upset because we had a lottery pick. We were really hoping for that number one overall pick. But yeah, left on a high note going into this season and, took off where he left, right? He's brought this Canucks team from the bottom of the standings. They're top of the league right now by like 6 points. The margin is huge. And you don't really see very often teams like this, miss the playoffs so badly and bounce to the top of the standings like this. And we've said it all year. We're waiting for the wheels to fall off. But this Canucks team has still not lost 3 games in a row all year. The consistency has been unbelievable. And I think it's just if the Canucks continue this pace and finish number one in the West or at least one or two in the Pacific, I think you still have to give him this award. So yeah, Rick Tocchet winning the Jack Adams for me. Yeah, it seems unlosable in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, he's my number one pick too, but I wanted you to give your opinion first. Similar situation with Rick Bowness and the Winnipeg Jets sort of taking this, non-playoff roster and, really sort of, getting them up to the standings this year. The only thing for me is, the Winnipeg Jets have been kind of slipping in recent weeks. And I think that would sort of hurt his case and really sort of, boost Rick Tocchet's case in the fact that he has been consistent all year long. They're going to pick up someone else at the deadline. They're going to be an even stronger team come March, come April. And, you can credit some of that success, most of that success to the players, but he is the man behind the wheel. He is the one, getting those players to play so well. So yeah, Rick Tocchet, pretty much a lock for the Jack Adams. Yeah, just closing the door on the award prediction segment and opening a new one on trade deadline preview. over the next couple of weeks, we'll just talk about some players who are on the block and then maybe who they could go to and what they could go for. So right off the gate, we talked about it earlier. Frank Vetrano could be a potential reunion with the New York Rangers. Obviously, they could use some depth on the forward lines with Blake Wheeler out, and he could fetch a pretty price. All star, very strong start to the season, bunch of goals already, very good goal scorer. Maybe a prospect, second, maybe even first rounder. Who knows what he could go for? But he could be a very intriguing piece. Obviously the Anaheim Ducks don't really need him at the moment. Going to miss out on the playoffs, so he fetch a very big return.
Yeah, you talk about the Rangers acquiring him. And I think it's a pretty interesting fit. Middle six forward can kind of slide in there, give you some scoring punch down the lineup. And it depends what the Ducks would want in return. Maybe they'd want a prospect and a pick, higher pick maybe. You could even look at a guy like Capo Caco being moved for him. Young roster piece, hasn't really fit with the Rangers. Could find his groove in Anaheim. But yeah, it's super interesting. Frank Vetrano. If the Rangers do acquire him, I think that really helps their lineup, bolsters that scoring depth, and kind of compensates for that loss of Blake Wheeler.
Moving on to the probably the biggest fish maybe of the trade deadline, and it's Jake Gensel. Still sort of unclear whether he'll be moved, but with Pittsburgh sitting outside still, it looks like he could be on the move with an injury at the moment, so that might impact what he could get, what the Pittsburgh Penguins could get for the return. But there's a lot of teams linked to him right now. Vancouver is one of them. Caden, I'll let you touch on that, and the Edmonton Oilers as well. Obviously the Oilers would need some secondary scoring behind McDavid, behind Draisaitl. Maybe use Evander Kane as sort of a cap dump, as well as move a couple prospects and picks. They do have a guy like Bourgault, even Raphael Lavoie, some really good strong prospects who could be intriguing for the Pittsburgh Penguins. But I mean, the Penguins are competing too, so they might want a roster piece back. And so we'll see what a team will have to give up for them. Probably roster piece, prospect, first rounder at the least.
Yeah, at this point, with the Gensel injury being out 4 weeks and the roster that the Pittsburgh Penguins have, don't believe he gets traded. I know they are aging. Crosby's getting up there, and I think they just need to kind of keep the help around him until he retires. I think they owe that to him. However, with the Canucks fit, not a huge fan of it. It would be a pure rental. I don't think we have the cap to keep him. And, guys like Lindholm expiring, Petey's due for an extension. So I think it would be a pure rental, and I don't think we're willing to give up Lekaramaki or Willander. And if Pittsburgh wants a prospect, it's going to take one of them at least to get it done. So I do like the fit in Edmonton. I do, like them throwing a bunch of prospects and picks Pittsburgh's way to get McDavid that help and, give him another elite winger to play with. So for me, if he does get traded, I would love to see him on Edmonton, but I think he does stay in Pittsburgh come deadline day. So just moving on, let's look at some D-man here. We're going to look at Noah Hanifin of the Calgary Flames. Contract extensions have gone haywire. He is going to be moved. Kenny, where do you think he goes?
It's tough to say. It's looking like the Atlantic Division right now with both Toronto and Tampa making their pitches. At the moment, Toronto has a lot more, assets than Tampa does. That could be intriguing to the Calgary Flames. So we'll see if, they move on from a couple, maybe like Matthew Nyes, someone who hasn't really performed that well. Maybe they package Tyler Bertuzzi. I've heard his name, out there. I do see him getting moved to one of those two teams. I don't really know what Tampa could give up for him. But, Calgary's got, a pretty big opportunity on their hands. I think he could fetch, a first and a prospect. We see what they've done with Lindholm. Maybe they want, roster piece back and try to stay competitive, by next year. But kind of unfortunate for them. He was close to a contract extension by the start of the year, and that just, fizzled out. And he's gonna, fetch a pretty price this deadline, and we'll see where he goes. He's a very, very talented offensive defenseman, and I'm excited to see where he ends up.
You talk about the Leafs and Calgary, what they want. I do believe, like you said, young roster pieces. So there are prospects like Fraser Minton or Easton Cowan that may be in play, but I don't think Calgary wants to get that young. I think they want somebody a little older with some NHL experience to fit that roster. So who knows, maybe a guy like David Kampf, Kalle Jarnkrok could be some cap casualties if the Leafs do decide to make a move. So that's the thing the Leafs got to think about. If they want to acquire a D-man like that, giving up some of that forward depth just to stay in the cap. Be interesting to see. I do believe a guy like Matthew Nyes would be someone that Calgary would really want, but I don't know if he'd be in play for the Leafs. And yeah, you look at your Tampa Bay Lightning, losing Sergachev, obviously, we talked about it last episode. That would be a great pickup for them. Really talented offensive defenseman, like you said. and would, bolster their roster for a playoff run.
Moving on to the same position and the same team. Chris Tanev, hard-nosed defenseman, very very smart defensive defenseman. Could he make a reunion with Vancouver? Who knows? Toronto is also a team out there who could use his services. Like we said, any team's gonna want that right shot defensive defenseman, and he wouldn't fetch as big of a price as Hanifin would, but he's a very very big asset, and I think he could fetch second, maybe a first. Caden, would you like that fit in Vancouver?
Yeah, I would absolutely love the fit. Back when he played for the Canucks in 2020, him and Quinn Hughes, in my opinion, a really perfect D pair. You have the offensively gifted Quinn Hughes and, a very defensively sound Chris Tanev. It really worked, and I was sad to see him sign in Calgary that offseason. But it's looking like we're going to be out on him. I'm looking at a July 1st reunion for Chris Tanev and the Canucks, hoping we can sign him in the offseason. But I do think we're out on him for right now. I think a team like the Leafs could pick him up, but I think the Flames are asking for a second round pick for him. And Kenny, the Leafs don't have a second round pick for the next 3 years. Traded them all away. So if they really do want Chris Tanev, it'll be interesting to see how they work around that with Calgary. Maybe it's the first, maybe it's a third and something else. But yeah, Chris Tanev, he'll be on the move, and I think a team like the Leafs could really use him.
Yeah, I mean, it just sounds like we're repeating the same teams, but it is the Cup contenders who are going to be buyers at the deadline, and there are several other teams who could be making splashes. Carolina, is a team out there. Vegas, maybe they want to pick up a few guys. So we'll see what happens come deadline time. That's only half, or maybe a fraction of the players that are available. Guys like Victor Olofsson, Anthony Duclair, Sean Walker. Those guys are all available, and we'll touch on them in the coming weeks. But yeah, let us know your thoughts, where you think those guys will end up if they do get moved, and what you think they could go for. All right, guys, moving on to some trivia. Right away for you, I've got a career path. I think it's pretty tricky, but we'll see how you do. We're going to start with the Detroit Red Wings.
Yep.
Over to the Edmonton Oilers.
Okay.
To the LA Kings, and then right now with the Chicago Blackhawks.
Teams look familiar, but I can't quite put it together. Wow, this one's hard. Or am I just dumb?
It's a tricky one.
Okay.
The hint that I could give you would probably give it away, though.
Okay. Because I have nothing right now.
You want the hint?
Sure.
His initials are AA.
Oh, damn. Oh man. Okay. Well, that gave it to me right away. Super fast guy in the league, actually, Andreas Athanasiou.
That is correct. Yeah.
Wow. That was it. You somehow managed to get me with these career paths. All right, Kenny, for my first question for you, and you have to tell me which players these are. This is all their current teams. They've all played this season, and they are all former Tampa Bay players.
All right, so I have a few names out here. I kind of want to rip them really quick, but I don't want to get a lot of them wrong.
Okay.
We'll go with Andre Palat with the New Jersey Devils, yeah.
Correct in the left wing spot.
Matthew Joseph with the Senators.
Matthew Joseph as a right winger. There you go.
Okay. Is it Ryan McDonough with the Predators?
That's the name I wouldn't accept. It is technically correct,
okay.
but I will not accept that name. So no lives lost.
Is it Jan Ruda with San Jose?
It is Jan Ruda with San Jose. Okay.
Man, that Nashville one's going to get me. New York Rangers center, we'll go Barclay Goodrow.
Barclay Goodrow is correct. There you go. It's looking good early.
Ooh, the goalie. Is that Louis Domingue?
It is Louis Domingue. Wow. Played one game this year.
They've got Fabro, Barry, Carrier. Oh, I've got it.
Yeah?
I got one of the names. Is it Luke Shen?
It is Luke Shen. There you go. Yeah, he has 36 games this year, so he has been playing.
Is there two names?
Well, Ryan McDonough was the other one.
Oh, okay, I see.
So,
all right.
But yeah, there you go.
I will give you 10 countries. You just give me their active point leaders. Canada.
Sidney Crosby.
Boom. Russia.
Alex Ovechkin.
There you go. 2 for 2. United States.
Blake Wheeler?
Blake was incorrect.
Oh, Patrick Kane.
There you go.
That's a bad guess. Blake Wheeler's a bad guess.
Slovenia.
Slovenia, Anze Kopitar. No!
There you go.
It is right. Okay, my bad.
That's right, yeah.
Okay.
Next one up, Sweden. This one's a little tricky. He is active, but right now he's not playing.
See, these ones are hard because it's not best in the league right now. It's someone who was best.
Oldest.
Yeah.
We can go to the next one and come back to
Sure,
it if
sure,
you
sure.
want.
We'll come back to Sweden.
Okay. Germany.
Leon Draisaitl.
There you
Okay,
go.
seemed a little too easy, but
Czechia.
see, this one's hard because you have a guy like Pasternak, but you also have like,
Mhm.
and it could be someone I'm completely forgetting, but I'm also thinking of Tomas
Mhm.
Hertl. Is it Tomas Hertl?
It is not Tomas Hertl.
Well, I feel like I have to guess Pasternak now. Is it David
It
Pasternak?
is David
Brutal.
Pastrnak. Finland.
Finland. Alexander Barkov.
It is Alexander
Oh.
Barkov.
Brutal.
Switzerland.
Is it Nico Hischier, Kenny?
It is
Oh
not
my
Nico
god. Oh no. Cut it, cut it, cut it. What are we looking at? Is it Roman Yossi?
It is Roman
Brutal.
Yossi. There you
Brutal.
go. Last one here is Norway.
Matt Zuccarello.
There you go. It's an
Okay.
easy one. You want to give Sweden another shot?
Sweden. Are we looking at Nicholas Backstrom, Kenny?
We are looking at Nicholas Backstrom.
Absolutely brutal. Whoa. That one was crazy. When you first said it, I was like, you know what? This might not be so hard. Yeah, I got humbled pretty quick. All right, Kenny, so my last trivia question for you today. It's going to be a career path. Not currently playing, he's retired as well. So started his career with the New Jersey Devils. Atlanta Thrashers. He also played a year when they were the Winnipeg Jets, over to the Chicago Blackhawks, to the Dallas Stars, then back to the Chicago Blackhawks, and finished his career with the Senators and the Flyers. I don't like how you're looking at me.
I thought I had it. Ooh, maybe I have another one.
Who are you thinking of?
I'm thinking of Johnny Oduya,
Okay. And who else?
and I'm thinking of Ray Emery.
Okay.
Ooh, oh, they're both so close. Because I know Oduya played with the New Jersey Devils. I have his 1-of-1 card.
Mm-hmm. I remember we filmed that, actually.
I don't think Emery went back, but I do think Oduya went back because they tried to bring the band back together. So I'm going to go with Johnny Oduya.
Johnny Oduya is correct.
Yeah.
Wow. Absolutely banged that one out. You were on it right away. When I was reading the last two teams, I saw that look in your eye. I was like, uh-oh, like, this one's going to be quick. But yeah, Ray Emery's a shout too. Didn't even think of him. But yeah, Johnny Oduya, great guess. All right, guys, that's going to wrap up episode 19. Thank you so much for tuning in. It was fun as always. Kenny, any words?
Yeah, just make sure you drop a like and a subscription or a follow. If you're new, yeah, thanks for watching. Make sure to check out the old stuff too. And yeah, make sure you subscribe and keep up with us. We have a lot of stuff coming out in the near future, and we're excited about it.
Yeah. Anyways, guys, take care. See you guys next episode.
I got 1,000 gunmen turning up, but they will gun you down. Oh, you know she wild inside emoji. Oh, you